Hi there, Devin Ginther with Refined Elements. At Refined Elements, we do real, American, handcrafted furniture. Today's video, I'm going to talk as briefly as I can about tool sharpening, chisel sharpening, blade sharpening of hand planers, etc. It all applies when you're looking for a sharp cutting edge on a tool. I've got honing stones starting at an 800 to then a 1200, and then I jump up myself to a 6000. You don't need to start at an 800 depending on how sharp your tools are and how you maintain them. You can easily just touch them up at a 2000 or a 4000. Really, there's no perfect way or right way in terms of your honing schedules. It's really what you're experiencing and what you tend to like. I know some people will stop at a 4000. And if you don't have a lot of chips or damage, and it's just about maybe having a little bit of a burr on the end, then you can touch them up at your highest grit and be done and move on. I'm not here to do a me too video because there's a lot of other videos out there on honing and sharpening of your tool edges. There's really two things that I want to touch on, and then I'll let you guys go. And I'm hoping it'll be valuable information for you. One is talking about how far do you take it, how perfectly flat does your surface need to be, and when should you stop. And second to that, I want to talk a little bit about honing stones. The downside to a honing stone is that you have to make sure to maintain it and keep it flat. So there's actually diamond surfacers that will surface a honing stone to make it flat, and then you use your honing stone to make your tool edges and faces flat. And so it sounds like it could be a bit of work. I'm sorry, I should keep telling myself to turn my phone off when I'm doing these things, but so bear with me on that. So I'm gonna come up kind of close to you, and I'm going to switch this guy to autofocus real quick. And I want to make sure that we've got it in focus in there. So a couple things. This top surface, I'm going to switch you off real quick. There we go. This top surface is, sorry, I'm adjusting it. So I've got the top of this chisel and then really the back side. The back side, a little counterintuitive. This is the face, this flat side of the chisel. Now if I flip it back over to the top side, I've got the bevel right here, and this of course is the cutting edge, this tip, and then on the back side of my bevel is the heel. So the one thing that I want to point out is first, you're going to start on the face and flatten the face. That's your basis. You want to make sure that this guy's perfectly flat. Now, the one thing that you don't need to worry about, let's see if I've got a good example of it. Here we go. Perfect. This chisel, if you look at it, it's got this teardrop shaped right in the middle and down here. And this is an area that is actually a little bit lower, so it's almost like a big divot there, and we're talking 1 to 2 thousandths, if that, from this surface. But when I've gone on my stone, and let me grab it and show you just up close. So we're going to do this, of course, on the table or on your working surface. But essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to hone it, applying pressure, and you're going to work it. The one thing about the stones is you can keep them flat and you don't have to worry about a bunch of upkeep. But the problem is people are running these grooves. If you notice, I'm working my way from one edge to the opposite edge, and I'm using the entire surface. And so I'm going to work this back, same cadence. The displacement or the amount I'm traveling through each stroke, I'm trying to do my best to be the same. It's a little harder now I'm holding this, and there we go. And so here's the back side. I'll wipe it off for you. And there you go. And you can see I still have this teardrop. That means this thing from edge to edge or end to end, side to side is not actually dead flat. But it doesn't matter. Do not worry about spending the extra time here. What matters is this cutting edge. This is the key right here, this edge. And that's what you want your eye to focus on. And how do you know that an edge isn't sharp enough? For one, you should be able to feel it. There's a certain sound these chisels make in wood, much like a hand planer. So it's all an audio thing for me. But if you look at it, if you get it up close and you see any type of defects, little corners or little pieces or chunks that are taken out, and I'm talking on a micro scale, then you know you need to sharpen it. The other thing is, if you can see the cutting tip itself, if you can actually see it, that says it's dull because light is reflecting off of it. This edge needs to be surgically razor sharp, so you actually should not be able to see the end whatsoever. And so that's a good visual indicator, but ultimately you should be able to feel it when you're cutting and chopping wood. And so that was the face side, which I will do as I set this up more as an assembly line. And switch this back on. And so I'll do that. The other thing is, on these stones, you want to make sure you pre-soak them. They need to be wet. These are water stones. And I'm going to switch this. I can hear it trying to adjust, and you're just going to have to bear with me. I'm not going to edit these videos. My time is only so limited. And so you'll have to deal with me on these videos. These are real life videos, guys. I do them on my spare time at my home shop here. So you want to pre-soak them. I usually pre-soak them for an hour. They're really porous. They soak up a lot of water. It'll keep them wet longer. And then you want to keep them wet. I use these aluminum pans, which are these cooking pans for turkeys or chickens. They work great. You can put some water in them. You can put your stone in them. And then you can do all your honing in here. This pan's a little high on the edge, so on the faces, you know, as I showed you, this is what I'm going to do on my flat surface. And I'm going to run it across, just like I showed you. I'm going to do this a little bit quicker so I can go to the next step. All the way from end to end, done. So now I've surfaced this properly, and any excess that I've taken off of this is the same from edge to edge, and that's how I maintain a flat surface on these stones. So now I've got a honing guide here, and this is a Veritas honing guide, or Veritas as some other people might pronounce it. It's Latin for truth. It's Veritas. There's a lot of different honing guides out here. This is a really popular one. It's about 65 bucks, I think, on Amazon. I highly, highly recommend it. I think if you're going to be sharpening your tools repetitively, it's worth the investment to buy one of these. You get absolute precision and accuracy on your sharpening. It can be done manually. I do it, but you're not going to get the same absolute results that you will with this. And what I love about the nice feature of this thing is, once you have it set up, this knob rotates 90 to 180 degrees, and it gives you a micro bevel, which is a 1 to 2 degree bevel. So these are 25 degree angles or bevel angles on these chisels, which is a very common one. I would say the common angles for most cutting edges are 20 to 30 for the most part, but of course there's an exception to any rule. But what you want to do is, when you're working on your last grit, for me it's a 6,000. I'm going to turn that thing, so instead of at 26 degrees, 25 degrees, I'm basically at a 26 or maybe even a 27 degree, and I'm just putting that on the very tip of this blade. And so, you know, once I have this thing in here, I'm going to take the same technique that I took with that I showed you, but manually. You're going to get it in here, your honing guide, and then you're just going to accept the difference here that I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the midline and work my way towards the end. And so I'm going to go back and forth, just like that, to that edge, and I'm going to come back, sweep it back over, the original edge there. Now I've surfaced this area halfway all the way around, so then I'm going to turn it, flip it this way. I'm going to actually usually wet it down, and I start at the midline again, and I do it again. And then that'll be enough for sure on that tip, and it'll keep my stones flat. And that's why you don't have to worry about your stones. If you're getting them out of whack, then to me, you're not using the surfaces correctly. And then finally, the other thing, so that's 800, and then you're just going to take the same steps. You're then going to go to your next grit level, do the faces, then do the bevels. And then to your end, do the faces, do the bevels at 6,000 for me. And then I tweak that knob and I do a 1 degree, 2 degree micro bevel. And then I've got literally a surgically sharp chisel, which works flawlessly every time. And just upkeep your chisels and don't beat the heck out of them. If you got areas that you're using and you're banging them and, you know, using them how they really shouldn't be used, buy something as cheap as these. These are Harbor Freight chisels. They have a place in my toolbox. I know when I may bang or chip or do something that I'm not banging up really expensive chisels, I'll bring these things out. I keep them sharp. They cut as well. They just don't stay sharp for nearly as long. So I can get them as sharp initially. They're just going to dull a lot quicker. Finally, the last thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to bring you close again here, let's go back to this little teardrop here, and let me adjust this because it's freaking out on me. There we go. So we're in good focus here. Once again, on this, and you have to forgive my dirty, nasty hands, because we do build handcrafted furniture, so my hands are work hands. But this cutting edge, this is where you want to focus. So if you can see my longer fingernails here, I don't care about this edge to the heel being perfectly ground. Now this one is, but when you first get your tools, you may have some deficits or some lower areas. Who cares? Don't take, 30 minutes, excuse me, flattening that surface. You'll get it over time as you repetitively do this. The third or fourth time, you'll eventually have this type of surface. That is, you can't see any type of refraction from the light that is different. So I'm smooth from every surface on here. But the key is, this is what you're looking for. Right here is this tip. I would say 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters deep into this tip from edge to edge. That's all you need to worry about. And that's also essentially what you're doing with a micro bevel. You're putting a very slight angle just on the tip. This is your cutting surface. You're not cutting up here. You're just sliding the wood past it. So don't waste your time in, for example, getting the sole of this chisel all perfectly flat, essentially, this face. You're just wasting your own time. It'll get there eventually, but you just want it flat, and you want it flat here, and you want this cutting edge to be as sharp as possible. And don't worry about anything in between. It'll work really well for you. So I hope that was somewhat helpful and give you at least two other pointers to think about when you're honing these things. It really shouldn't be a long, labor-intensive process. Turn on the radio, grab a drink. I will do all of this easily. Probably have 14, 16 tools to sharpen. I'll easily do it in an hour, and just maintain it. Don't beat the heck out of your edges. If not, you'll just be honing and you may even have to regrind some of the surface. But you can do it really quickly. When I went to Japan, I traveled there some, and I've spent some time with some of the woodworkers there. Every morning, those guys, they're in the routine. They sharpen all their tools every single morning. And it's what they do because they're mainly working with chisels and traditional hand tools there. But their stuff is kept sharp for that reason. It makes them work safer and more efficiently, and their end products are wonderful because of the quality of the blades that they keep. So I hope that's helpful. Once again, Refined Elements. You can check us out at refinedelements.com. /blog is the blog. I'm going to start posting more and more stuff directly on our website, interactive information. I'm looking for comments from people. Like I said, there's no one right way to do this. It's the way I do it, and I hope those tips are helpful. Looking for your feedback and look forward to interacting with you in the future, and have a good one.